So now you see, because of this strange political conjuncture in France, the students, first of all, they don't believe that elections or parliament can produce any change. They identify with revolution, but they can't identify with the French Communist Party. Therefore, one sees at the end here the film by Jean-Luc Godard called La Chinoise, the Chinese Woman. Two years later, in 1969, he makes another film, which is the title of a saying by Mao Zedong. In French, it's Le Vent d'Est, the wind, which is the title of my book, The Wind from the East, and
好，那我先翻译一下啊。那个当时说是他说这样的一个政治的一个复杂情况下面，法国学生是不相信选举，他不相信议会这样一种就是正常的政治机制会带来任何的这个社会变化。他们相信革命，但是他们的处境就是他们不太相信法国共产党。所以在当时他又说，那刚刚我们在电影里面看到戈达尔所那个一个片段，就是一个中国女人的这个电影。然后呢，这个导演又做了另外一部电影，他是说是关于他引用了，就是这也是跟他书名有关，就是说是引用了一个毛泽东的一句话文献，就是说有两股风在世界里面，一种是东风压倒西风，西风压倒东风，就是说是这样一个，所以他的书名也是从毛的话里面，东风现在压倒西风。
Thank you. And you also have to know one other remark about French political history that you know well, that if you want to be French identity is tied to the year 1789. You want to just say that? And the French Revolution. Okay. This is why the French, especially in France, to be an activist or a militant means to be a revolutionary. These are the great years of revolution in France, 1789, 1830, 1848, the Paris Commune of 1871, the Popular Front of the 1930s, and then later May 68. This is a crucial part of French identity and French political culture. The myth, the figure of revolutionism. This is something that gives you meaning in France. I was just in France 2 weeks ago, and of course they call grève, strikes. This is still the last gasp of fidelity or faithfulness to the French revolutionary tradition.
好，他说到谈到就是法国文化，就是说首先我们要理解，就是作为就变成一个法国的人，就是法国人这个认同本身是怎么建立？它跟一系列的革命的传统，比方说1789年啊，整个一路下来到比方说当时巴斯蒂那个监狱的反叛，一路下来到1930年，再一路下来到1968年，这整个革命的一个传统有关。就是说我们要看到那些法国现在所谓的一个政治的积极活跃分子也好，说他们是军事的那种好战分子也好，那这种文化就是说在法国人的一个血液里面。他说他就在2周前，他跑到法国去，在法国看到那边有罢工，然后这整个就是说你还是能看到法国人的这个人的认同里面，他是个忠诚，是跟整个革命的他们光荣的传统是联系在一起的。
And just a quick question. Is there ever, in China, they ever showed Godard's film La Chinoise from 1967? No.
We watched other films, but not this one.
Other Godard films, yeah. But you have to realize that also in France, one of the peculiarities of French political life, and one of the reasons that revolution is so easy in France, is because of centralization. It's not like the United States, not like China. Whoever controls Paris controls France. If you blockade Paris, the whole nation shuts down. Yeah? And the other point, the reason I mentioned Godard, the great French filmmaker, because this film, La Chinoise, there was a small clip of his wife. It was actually his wife. He had a young wife, Anna Wiazemski, smoking the cigarette. Yeah. you have to realize how small maybe some of you have been to Paris, how small the Latin Quarter is, and how concentrated intellectual life is in France. You can believe that 90 or 95% of French students, Godard was a sensation, the German word, Wunderkind, of French cinema. 90% of French students had seen this film in '67, the year after the Cultural Revolution in China, La Chinoise.
好，他说那个就是要理解那个法国政治。他刚刚首先问一个问题，就是我们多少人看过这个那个戈达尔的那个电影？这个刘老师已经回答了，就是这个电影我没看到过。然后呢，要理解那个法国政治文化的一个特征啊，就是说它是本身是一个就是跟美国跟中国都不同，它是一个非常中央化的。中央化是什么意思呢？就是说谁控制了巴黎，就是能够控制整个那个国家。然后呢，再回到那个导演，这个导演就是说，他刚刚我们看到一个画面，他说是他的老婆，是他的老婆太太，就是说，然后呢，就是说当时啊，在拉丁区啊，拉丁区是一个就是当时法国很多著名学府都集中在那个索邦大学啊，包括那个法兰西学院啊，包括那个巴黎高师啊，都集中的一个区。这其实是很小的一个区，这是很小的一个城市的一个领域。那么法国当时知识文化是非常密集在这么一个区里面，而这区里面90%到95%的学生都看过这个人的就是电影，在67年，就是文革后的一年，都看过这个导演的电影。
Thank you. Hence, the fact, on the one hand, that other radical political options, socialism, parliamentarism, or electioneering were ruled out. The French students, and given their political heritage and preoccupation with revolution, they needed an alternative, a political alternative. And this is one of the reasons that they found China so fascinating, the texts of Mao so fascinating. And of course, in the rest of the world, here's the irony of my presentation, is that I'm telling you about Maoism, but not in China. Elsewhere, it has a big effect, and I even remember as a youth, I had peers or friends who had gone to China and came back with some very exciting stories about, in French they'd say ça bouge, things are really moving, things are really changing. And so on the one hand you have this disillusionment. Don't forget what was happening in the West. You have the terrible war in Vietnam, with you saw the pilot and the bombings, the napalm. 1 to 2 million Vietnamese are killed. But also, in American cities, you have these riots and uprisings, and terrible problems. A very great disillusionment with the West, with itself and modernity, and hence the need for alternatives. And this is one reason why, and I'll finish, why China and the Cultural Revolution seem to be, for so many, not just on the left, but even conservatives, in fact, the best hope for the planet, for the future. The hope was that China's trying something different, China's trying something new. All our approaches in Europe and the United States have failed, they have failed. Perhaps China can show the way.
然后当时呢是这样一个事实啊，这样事实就是别的那种激进主义的方案都已经被否决掉了，就是说他说是社会主义的或者说议会主义的这种路径啊，全部已经被就是当事人不会作为考虑的。然后他们又需要一种革命的选择，所以他们就当时看向中国，就是看中国看毛的文本。就是说他说他自己啊，就是在世界，就是说在别世界其他地方讲毛，为什么呢？就是他作为一个青年的时候，在年轻的时候，他很多同事朋友跑到中国去，当时在跑回来的时候，就告诉他很多很激动人心的故事啊，中国在变化啊什么。所以说对于他，就是说他这样的一代年轻人会感受到，就是说在西方啊，就是什么，就面对越战很恐怖的汽油弹啊，那种1到200万至少那个越南的那个平民被杀死，然后在美国的主要的城市里面，各种各样的反叛，各种各样的抗拒，到处都是不满，他们不满于西方，不满于现代性。那么在中国呢，中国的文革 他这个时候对于不只是很多人不只是左翼，同时也包括保守主义者，他认为是一个最好的 best hope， 就是星球未来最好的一个希望。然后呢，中国呢他们都认为中国在干新事情，而我们欧洲、美国啥事都做不了。
Thank you. So the other thing that's important to understand is I'll be blunt, the incredible level of ignorance in not just the West, but in France about events in China. The students we're talking about were former communists, that is PCF, French Communist Party, who, for the reasons I explained before, left the party and were searching for another platform or vehicle for revolution. And they were students at the most prestigious French university, l'École Normale Supérieure. We're at the East China Normal, so you know what normal means in France, the teachers' college or university. This is the most prestigious institution in France, the École Normale. And they're convinced that to be a genuine revolutionary in this era, in an era of third worldism, means identifying with the doctrines of Chairman Mao. But it's important to understand that they knew very little about China. They didn't speak Chinese. A couple did make trips to the People's Republic in '67 or so. But one has to understand what's happening, clearly also on the level of political psychology. Because the People's Republic becomes a projection for all their disappointed and frustrated revolutionary fantasies and dreams from 1789 to the present. China is, we would say, in psychology jargon, a Rorschach test or a projection screen for all their revolutionary hopes and expectations.
好，他说另外一个是他必须要比较粗鲁的说清楚这件事，那个是一种当时其实对于西方的人、法国人对于中国的发生的事情是彻底无知。就是当时是怎么个情况呢？是一些当时前法共的共产党的那些学生离开了党以后，他们非常绝望的，而且非常要寻找一个革命的一个新的一个 vehicle， 一个新的一个载体。然后呢，这是他特别举了一个，就是巴黎高师啊，当时是一个毛主义的一个大本营，就是在阿尔都塞，他的学生是一个大本营。在当时他们这些人都是认同毛的理论、毛思想、毛泽东思想，但是同时又彻底无知到他对中国发生事无知，他们也不说中文。确实有一批人，我们都知道，他们包括像克里斯蒂瓦啊什么，他们1970年代去了中国。然后呢，但是沃伦教授马上提到，这要解释还要联系到政治心理学。这个政治心理学呢，就是说当时我们中国人民共和国啊，它作为是一种幻想，作为当时一代知识分子或者说法国学生的一种幻想和梦想的投射。他说了一个实际上是一个屏幕一样，承载了他们所有的对一个未来的革命的一个期许的一个想法，但是和中国实际并不完全没有必然的一个关系。
So the French students, now we come to the important year 1968, where the Normaliens, the students at the École Normale, in May '68, of course, they have a general strike, and they shut down the Sorbonne in the heart of the Latin Quarter. The students do. The strike starts in Nanterre, on the outskirts of Paris, and by mid-May, by May 15th, May 16th, there are 8 to 9 million people on strike in France, out of a total of 60 million.
他说现在回到讲68年的时候，当时首先是学生和工人一起联合起来一个罢工影响到整个索邦大学，包括以索邦大学为中心整个拉丁区。然后呢，在5月中旬啊，15号、16号的时候，整个有8到900万的人，在整个6000万人的里面有8到900万的人加入了一个罢工。
So now we have to taken interest in the way the French Maoists, who had their initials were UJCML, Union de Jeunesse Communiste Marxist-Leninist. This was very important to indicate you're revolutionary, Marxist-Leninist, not revisionist. The Maoists of this group, the Normaliens, at first did not get involved in the student revolt because they wanted to be, this is very ironic, they were students, for the most part they were bourgeois, or grand bourgeois, even. This is one of the, in France they call it one of the grandes écoles, one of the elite institutions. So here are the very elite Normaliens who don't want to go demonstrate or protest in the Latin Quarter because it's only a student revolution. It's not a working class revolution. And they want to support the workers. So all they do is they make flyers or banners and they go out to the Faubourg Saint-Antoine, the working class districts, and they hand out flyers to the workers. But the problem is that this great, they have this phrase in France, the events of May 68, the events of May 68, the Maoists in France, they missed the revolutionary moment in France because they misunderstood it. They misunderstood its extent and grandeur in many ways.
他说那个毛主义者，就是当时他现在讲法国的一个毛主义者，他们呢就是说很有意思的是，他们就是错过了当时在一开始的时候，他们错过了学生反叛。就是说他们当时是什么身份呢？他们一方面是学生，另外一方面呢又是一种资产阶级情调的一种自认为一种精英的。所以他们不想就是说像那个很傻的跑到那个拉丁区的那个，就是我们刚刚说拉丁区是一个非常知识分子集中的一个思想氛围很好的地方去游行啊，所以他们就跑到这个区外，就是说去跟那些发传单，去向工人发传单。所以呢，这个整个事情就是说，当时要理解那个68年5月份这个事件的时候，主要我们先要理解就是毛主义者，就是当时这些法国的毛主义者，当时一开始是错过了这个学生的一个反叛。
In the summer of 1968, in good Maoist fashion, this group of Normaliens had to do sessions in self-criticism because they'd misread the importance of the student revolt. They tried to be radical, they tried to be like the workers, but they weren't, and they didn't really understand this major event in post-war French history. So they rethought their strategy. One of their responses comes from the doctrines of Mao Zedong, which is the notion, I don't know what it is in Chinese. In French, investigation in English. In French, it's enquête, and comes from a saying by Mao Zedong, whoever hasn't done an investigation doesn't have the right to speak.
好，那个他说到就是那个接着就是因为5月事件嘛，然后到68年的夏天，就是说法国那个毛主义者开始就是自我批判了，就是说开始，因为他们当时确实没有就是理解就是法国当时学生运动的一个重要性或者它那个程度，他们只是就是那个向工人在发传单，所以在这样一个大的事情，5月的事件，在战后的法国的整个历史上，这个重要性他们当时是没有那个就是错过了。所以呢，在这个夏天的时候，他们开始反过来有这样一个策略，就是说他们谈到那个用了一个毛泽东那个术语，就是说调查或者说 investigation， 就是没有调查就是没有那个发言权。